cozy season, which means it is time to show all of my favorite cozy thrillers, cozy romances, scary thrillers, and all the things that I love. So this video is gonna be showing you guys 20 book recommendations for autumn, and I feel like in the fall, I just love when things are cozy. So you're gonna get a lot of good cozy recommendations. 15 of these books I've actually already read, and then 5 of the books are books that are kind of like on my future TBR for maybe like October or November. If you guys wanna see my immediate TBR, that is for September. I actually have that video already up, so you guys can go check that out. And yeah, let's get in this video. Make sure you guys subscribe because I upload new videos 3 days a week on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and I hope you guys enjoy. The very first book that I thought of when I think of like thrillers and like thrillers that I've enjoyed is The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I read this actually before I had Goodreads, and so I can't like really give an accurate depiction of the specific rating I would have given it. I don't remember. I started my Goodreads in January of this year, but I love this book so much. It's about a couple who one of the couples actually, or one of the people in the couple, she actually like cheated on her husband, and so they're kind of like struggling, so they decide to go to this therapist who is super unorthodox. She kind of does things her own way, and it's honestly like a little creepy, the things that she does and like the way that she like helps couples navigate through things. And you kind of find out that like the couple has a lot going on behind the scenes. They seem perfect on the outside, and they definitely are not. There are tons of big secrets that end up like being just so wild as you're reading this book. I will say that this book isn't necessarily like a scary thriller, but it just gives me like cozy thriller vibes, and it's perfect for fall. Another book I always think of when I think of just books that are perfect for fall is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. Now, this book is literally one of my top 5 favorite books of all time, and I've rated this 5 out of 5, and I'm probably going to read it again this year just because I love it that much. I actually have a special edition copy of this book. This book is so good. It's about Macy and Elliot, and they knew each other as kids, and they just had like the most like, when you think of the like strongest connection you can think of, like that was literally them. They were best friends, and then they grew to like love each other, and it is the sweetest friends to lovers story. But as they got older, you can kind of see that there's something that just pulled them apart, and so it's told in dual point of view between like the past and the present. In the present, they're like not speaking. Something happened that pulled them apart, and it is so good. I think what makes this book so cozy to me is they're both book lovers, and so they like get blankets and they'll like go into this closet and like read together, and they just get like so cozy. And you can see like the book on the front, and you can see the coffee on the front of the book. It just literally gives cozy vibes, and I think that this is perfect for fall. So this book is definitely a cozy thriller, or cozy mystery, I guess I would say, not thriller. It's called There Goes the Neighborhood by Jade Adia. Now, this is a book that is pretty much like Scooby-Doo and the gang vibes. Like they're all banding together to kind of like save their town. And there is just like a lot of gentrification going on in the neighborhood. And so they decide to create this fake gang so that like people stop buying property in the area. And while they create the fake gang, stuff actually like starts happening, and there's like a lot of fear in the town. So it kind of like spirals out of control and becomes something that they like can't even grasp on their own, and they just like don't really want to stop this fake gang because it's keeping people from buying property and like prices going up. But they also don't want to like keep having it there because a lot of people in the area are kind of like scared because they feel like a gang is back. And so it is a really good book. I really enjoyed this one. I think that this one has just so many of the things that I want in like a cozy mystery. This is also YA, I'm pretty sure, and so it just is a really good book. I know you'll love this one. This was one of my favorite books, and again, this is another book that I read before I had Goodreads, but I love this author. I really like this book, but it also was turned into, I think, like a Hulu series, and I love the series on Hulu as well. I can't really explain this one, but it just gives like moms in the Hamptons, rich mom vibes, and just like lots of drama. And on the back it says, a murder, a tragic accident, or just parents behaving badly, what's indisputable is that someone is dead. Big Little Lies is a brilliant take on ex-husbands and second wives, mothers and daughters, schoolyard scandal, and the dangerous little lies we tell ourselves just to survive. And it's called Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty. Now we're getting into the thrillers that are like thrillers, and if you guys want just like a full video of only thrillers thrillers, let me know, because I pretty much only read like romance and thrillers, so I have tons of thriller recs. But this is called The Other Woman by Sandy Jones, and I really love this book. It is about a couple that's really getting ready to get married, but they have just like a mother-in-law who is literally the worst. Like, when you think of the worst mother-in-law that you could have, this is her. She's like, I do not want my son to get married. Like, she is the worst. It says the other woman will have you questioning her on every page, the mother-in-law. And in this fiendishly twisty psychological thriller about a man, his new girlfriend, and the mother who will never let him go. I mean, that alone is just like, ugh, it's so chilling. It's a really good book. I'm kind of going back and forth between like thriller and then like a book that's not a thriller. But again, let me know if you guys want like a full thriller video with only thriller recs, because I love thrillers and I read them so much. But the next book that is perfect for like a cozy fall read is If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. This book is a book that is so sad and you will literally cry when you're reading it. It's about Autumn and Finn. They're like the best of friends, but they are in kind of different groups at school. Like Autumn, she's kind of like considered like weird, quirky girl at school. Like, she wears like a princess crown just because, like, she kind of dresses however she wants. And Finn is like popular, and they used to be friends growing up because they were neighbors. They had like a really good friendship, and they just kind of drifted apart because they're in different friend groups. So it shows like how, I don't know, friendship in school can sometimes be hard, and how like school, it can be just like a hard place in general. It talks a lot about growing up, and I feel like because this is set in a school setting and it shows like homecoming and like prom and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure it just gives like the school vibes and the fall vibes, and like that's what I think of when I think of Autumn. So yeah, read this book, and the second book actually from Finn's point of view is coming out very soon, so this will be the perfect time to read this one. Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson is a book that I absolutely loved, and it's about Monday, who she pretty much just like disappears. Like, she stops coming to school, something is just like awry, and her best friend keeps asking around for her, and like no one is telling her like where she's at, what's happening. So she goes on this search to like find her, and what she finds is so much more than she could have even bargained for. Like, just, it is so good. It also, I think, is a really telling story of how like there are so many Black children who just like disappear and nothing happens. Something happens to them, but like no one is really looking for them in the same way that they would for other people in different like groups or different cultural groups. So I really love this book, and it was, again, very like, I was on the edge of my seat at one point in the book, and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, she's gonna get caught, she's gonna get caught. If you've read this book, you know, like, if you know, you know. But I really enjoyed this, and this will not be my last Tiffany D. Jackson book. I've heard her books are incredible. I feel like I have to add this one, but I don't think that this was like one of my absolute favorite books, but I feel like it's just because the specific like type of book it was is just like not what I would normally pick up, and it's called The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. Now, I will say I love the writing of this, but I don't really pick up any like supernatural type books. It's just not my vibe. I think I rated this like 3 out of 5 stars, but if that's your vibe, you will really like this book. It is about Florence Day, who she's a ghostwriter, and she ends up like really needing an extension for her book that she's ghostwriting, and the editor's like, no, you can't get an extension, you need to submit it like now. But then Florence gets a call from back home and telling her she needs to come back home because someone has died, and she goes back home, but she's always been able to like see ghosts. And so throughout the whole book, you kind of see her like going back to her hometown where everyone thinks she's like weird because they like know just like a lot about her and like her as a younger girl, and so she's trying to navigate that. But then this ghost literally pops up, and throughout the book, she kind of like starts to fall for this ghost. So it's definitely an interesting story, but I feel like if you like supernatural stories, especially romances, this is a good one. The next book that really got me on my Freida McFadden kick is The Housemaid, and Freida McFadden, I feel, reads or writes really like quick thrillers that you'll just like literally want to finish in a day. And this is about a housemaid who goes into this home, and she pretty much goes in because she has like nowhere else to go, and she's like, I'm gonna get paid like a good amount, but she ends up going in, and like the room that she's supposed to stay in does not have like a knob or like anything on the inside. It locks from the outside, and so she kind of is like a little worried, like, is this like a good place for me to like be a housemaid? I don't really know. And while she's there, some crazy stuff starts to happen. The lady who like she's working for literally ends up being absolutely like wild, and just throughout the whole book, it just gets like crazier and crazier. So definitely pick this up if you're wanting like a quick to the point thriller. If you haven't read anything from Freida McFadden, I feel like you'll really like this book. Behind the Scenes by Christina C. Jones is a book that I think is such a good cozy romance, and it makes me think of fall, especially when I see the cover. It just is so pretty, but I love this book. It's about Pierre and Logan, and they kind of meet just like super randomly. I think she has like a flat tire or something, and then she ends up having a one night stand, which she literally never does. And then the next day she goes to this client that she has to meet up with because she like has a business of her own where she helps clients with just like their businesses and like growing their businesses, social media, like all kinds of things. And she's kind of like a personal assistant type thing, but like on a higher scale, if that makes sense. And she goes to meet up with her client and finds out it's literally the guy that she hooked up with the night before. And so it's like a huge client. And so she's like, of course I'm going to take this, but they obviously have chemistry because they hooked up the night before. So the whole like, not the whole book, but a large part of the book, there's so much tension because they're trying to like be respectful of like her position, but also you can tell they definitely have feelings for each other. And she's the type who kind of likes to keep people at a distance, and so you can see him kind of breaking down her walls and she's breaking down his walls. It is just such a good book, and I actually fell in love with Christina C. Jones's writing, so I ended up picking up more books from her, and again, love them so much, but I feel like this is a really good, cozy fall book. Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino really reminds me of fall, and I think it's because it just gives like fall vibes because it's set in New York City. Now, it's about two people who they meet at their dorm room, and while they're there, they just like really hit it off. It just seems to be this like super, I don't know, like whirlwind of a love, but also just like such a deep love. And it shows like their past and them in college and them like connecting with each other, and then it shows in the future and they're like literally just like doing their own thing. And so they end up actually like seeing each other on the, what's it called in New York? Like the, not the train, but you know what I mean? The subway. And they like catch eye contact with each other, but they haven't seen each other in I think like 15 years. And so they catch eyes with each other, and the guy, he just is like, I need to see her again. Like it's been so long, I haven't seen her since college. So he tries really hard to connect with her and like find her. And I feel like if you like Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing, or if you like Sally Rooney's writing, very like introspective, something that's gonna like leave you with a deep takeaway that's kind of just like very realistic to real life, I feel like you'll really like this book. I've read so many books from Cherie Lapina because the writing is so good. These thrillers you will literally finish in one sitting. This is called The Couple Next Door, and it's about Anne and Marco who seem to have just like the perfect life. And then it says that one night when they're at a dinner party next door, a terrible crime is committed and suspicions immediately fall into the parents. You don't really know what, like, who is the bad person or like what's going on. It is just, I can't really say too much because I feel like I will give it away, but this book is only like, let's see, I think it's less than 300 pages. It's right at 300, it's like 307, so you'll finish this really fast. And I've read, I wanna say like 3 or 4 books from this author. Loved all of them, and I gobble them up so fast. Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola is one of my favorite romances, and I think this one is perfect for autumn vibes. It gives the coziness that I know you're looking for. So this is a book that's about Kiki and Malachi, and I really love how it is told when they're in college. And so I feel like when I think of college, I literally think of fall, because usually the seasons, like you go back to college in the fall, and it just gives like fall vibes. So Kiki, she has a radio show, and on her radio show, people get advice from her, and she gives some advice about pretty much like staying away from guys who are toxic, like, you know, give women empowerment advice, that kind of situation. And there's this guy who's like going around the school, and she is like, this guy is not a good guy. He's only trying to like hook up with you and leave you and like will break your heart. And she pretty much says that on the show, and then she ends up meeting this guy, and people think that she's hooking up with him. So because people think that, they're like, well, were you only saying that on your show because you like want us to stay away from him? So they fake date to pretty much like let everyone know, like, no, this is like a real thing, like my radio show is valid. And then he like gets on the radio show to like help her with her views and like make sure that her community is still connected to her. And during all of that, She realizes that Malachi is like one of the best book boyfriends that you will literally ever read about, and there's so much in this book that I haven't even touched on. If you like the show Dear White People, I feel like you will love this book. It is so good. There is just so much in it, and I feel like it's one of my favorites to recommend, especially in the fall. Now, this book you definitely have to make sure you can stomach like scary thrillers. This is called Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. Now, I will say I don't really read scary thrillers very often, and this one was scary for me, but for someone who normally reads scary thrillers, you will be fine. This book is about Jack and Grace, and they seem to have the perfect relationship, but it says that some might call it true love, but others might wonder why Grace never answers the phone, or why she can never meet for coffee even though she doesn't work, how she can cook elaborate meals but remain so thin, or why she never seems to take anything with her when she leaves the house, not even a pin, or why there are such high security metal shutters on all the downstairs windows. Some might wonder what's really going on once the dinner party is over and the front door is closed. So I can't really say much else other than that because I don't want to give anything away, but I really enjoyed this book. I think that this gives that scary thriller like vibe that you're probably looking for in the fall. It gives just very good autumn vibes. So this book was actually turned into a show, I think, on Hulu. It's called The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave, and this is about Owen Michaels, who he pretty much just like disappears, and before he leaves a note with his wife that says protect her, meaning like protect his daughter. And his wife doesn't really get along with the daughter very much. She's like a stepmom, but she is like, okay, I'm gonna take, you know, this note and like take it seriously because I don't know like what happened to Owen, why he disappeared. And so this whole book is her and her daughter trying to find Owen, figure out what happened. And I finished this in less than 24 hours. It was very, very good. It's one of those fast like thrillers that you will just like get through really fast. If you like action movies, I feel like you will really like this book. It's not like a scary, like gruesome type of thriller, but it's like more edge of your seat, like, you know, we have to find this person type of thriller, and I feel like those are really fun for fall. Now we're gonna get into the books that I have on my TBR for fall. I'm not gonna really like read too in depth what the story is about, just because I kind of like to go into my books somewhat blind. But the first book that is on my TBR for fall is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I'm pretty sure that someone gets murdered and she tries to like solve it and like figure out what happened. And I think the murder happened like a while back, and she's like trying to piece together what happened because the murder was unsolved. It's by Holly Jackson. I've heard so many people talk about this book, and there's multiple books as well that are after this first one, and so many people have said it's good, so I want to read this. Another book is Charming as a Verb by Ben Filipe, I think that's what it's called, or what it is. And it says that it is about Henry, who he pretty much is just like this charming guy, and he meets Corinne Troy, and it says she uncovers Henry's less than honest dog walking scheme, so she blackmails him into helping her change her image at school, and Henry agrees, seeing a potential upside for himself. So it says soon what started as a mutual hustle turns into something more surprising than either of them ever bargained for. The front just gives fall. That's literally why I think of like this book being a fall book, because it's like the orange, it's just giving fall. It's also, I think, set in like New York City. Yeah, it's set in New York, and I feel like New York also gives fall vibes, so I'm really excited to read this one. The next book that definitely gives fall is What a Match by Mimi Grace. Literally, there are like leaves on the front of this. Like, this is the most fall looking book I think that I own, like at all. It's just absolutely beautiful. I love the illustration. And it says, sometimes what you're looking for is right under your nose. Meticulous and driven, Gwen Gilmore knows what she wants, especially in a man, but the dating scene is slow and unserious, and she realizes she may need some professional help. A matchmaker. To be more specific, nothing will distract her from finding the perfect on-paper boyfriend except maybe her brother's grumpy best friend. Anthony Woods has had a crush on his best friend's sister since the day he met her, and he's managed the unfortunate affliction by keeping his distance. However, that gets complicated when he temporarily moves into her home. As they connect and grow closer, will Gwen stick to the dating plan outlined by the professionals, or admit when it comes to love, there's no right way to fall? So I want to read all of this, like the back of it, and like really give you an idea of what this book's about, because I feel like I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this book, and it's great for fall. I also picked up Rewrite Our Story by Kat Singleton, and this makes me think of fall because on the back there's like leaves down here, and it's giving like orange and stuff. And this is about, it says, Kay Jennings was always there for me when I needed him until he wasn't. I spent my entire life loving my brother, my best friend's older brother. Every single one of my birthday wishes was spent hoping Cade would finally notice me, and then one day he did. So there's like a ton more on the back of the book, but I think that that gives like a little synopsis of the story. It's set in a small town, which I feel like small town books in the fall are absolutely perfect vibes, and I just am really excited to read this. Another book that I'm really excited about to read this fall is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. Now, this is about a couple that actually meet at a Halloween party. That's what it is. And I don't know if it says this on the back. I feel like everyone kind of knows the spoiler in this book, like what the trope is, but I'm not going to say it if it's not on the back, so I'm going to read the back, because I have such a hard time when I'm watching reviews and someone will say a like plot thing, like something about the plot in a book that most people probably know because everyone talks about it, but then I read on the back of the book that it's not there. So for anyone else who does not know what this book is about, I'm going to read the back. It says, Winifred Wynne McNulty has always been wildly independent, not one to be coddled for her limb difference. Wynne has spent most of her life trying to prove that she can do it all on her own, and with some minor adjustments, she's done just fine. That is until she has a one-night stand with the incredibly charming Beau, a perfect stranger, and that one night changes everything. While Beau is surprisingly elated to step up to the plate, Wynne finds herself unsure of whether she can handle this new challenge on her own or if she'll need a helping hand. Together, Wynne and Beau decide to get to know one another as friends and nothing more, but as they both should know by now, life rarely goes according to plan. So I feel like this one is perfect for fall because they meet at a Halloween party, so it's like literally set in the middle of fall, and I thought that that would be really cute. Also picked up Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. Honestly, I've read the backs of most of these so far, so I feel like I should just keep the ball rolling. But this is about Mary B. Addison, and it says Mary B. Addison killed a baby, allegedly. She didn't say much in that first interview with detectives, and the media filled in the only blanks that mattered. A white baby had died while under the care of a church-going black woman and her 9-year-old daughter. The public convicted Mary, and the jury made it official, but did she do it? She wouldn't say. Mary survived 6 years in baby jail before being dumped into a group home. There wasn't a point to setting the record straight before, but now she's got Ted and their unborn child to think about. When the state threatens to take her baby, Mary's fate now lies in the hands of the one person she distrusts the most, her mama. No one knows the real mama, but does anyone know the real Mary? Now, I read the book Monday's Not Coming, and I just like gave so much praise to this author, and then so many of you guys were like, oh my God, read Allegedly, read Allegedly, read Allegedly. So I was like, you know what? I will read Allegedly. I trust you guys' judgment. So I picked up this book, and I feel like this is perfect for fall. And then the another book that's on my TBR that's for fall is called All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. Now, I actually was talking to someone on our trip to Germany, and she was like in our group of friends, and we were talking about books that we love, and she was like, one of my favorite books that I read is this book. And I remember being like, oh, okay, cool, like, you know, people give book recs all the time. I didn't really know her super well, so I was like, I don't really know if the books that she recommends will be like my type of books. But then she was like, yeah, I read The Housemaid, I read this, read that. So she was like saying books that I like, and I'm like, maybe we do like the same books. And then I looked at Goodreads, and the reviews for this are astronomical in the best way. And so I had to pick it up, and it says, you can't ever know for sure what hides behind closed doors. Everyone from Wakarusa, Indiana, remembers the infamous case of January Jacobs, who was discovered in a ditch hours after her family awoke to find her. Margot Davies was 6 at the time, the same age as January, and they were next door neighbors. In the 20 years since, Margot has grown up, moved away, and become a big city journalist, but she's always been haunted by the feeling that it could have been her. And the worst part is, January's killer has never been brought to justice. When Margot returns home to help care for her uncle after he's diagnosed with early onset dementia, she feels like she's walked into a time capsule. Indiana is exactly how she remembers stifled, secretive, and then news breaks out about 5-year-old Natalie Clark from the next town over, who's gone missing under circumstances eerily similar to January's. With all the old feelings rushing back, Margot vows to find Natalie and to solve January's murder once and for all. But the police, Natalie's family, and the townspeople, they all seem to be hiding something. And the deeper Margot digs into Natalie's disappearance, the more resistance she encounters, and the colder January's case feels. Could January's killer still be out there? Is it the same person who took Natalie? And what will it cost to finally discover what truly happened that night 20 years ago? Twisty, chilling, and intense, All Good People Here is a searing tale that asks, what are your neighbors capable of when they think no one is watching? Ooh, that just give me just like, so much excitement. I cannot wait to read this. So that is all the books on my little list to give you guys for 20 book recommendations for fall. I feel like autumn cozy books are literally just what everyone is looking for right now. So I hope you guys enjoy all these cozy autumn books and you guys decide to come back for the next video that's gonna be up on Tuesday. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys!